The Simpsons. Do, 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 do. Hey everybody, welcome to the Mr. Movie Show. And on this episode, we're talking about The Simpsons. I'm Steve,
and I'm Jay,
and today we're going to kind of discuss and talk about kind of The Simpsons and sort of why we're fans of it, and then go through the episode of season 3 called Flaming Moes. So first off, let's kind of talk about when did we see The Simpsons for the first time?
Oh man, Steve, that's a hard question because
did you kind of catch it? Catch it on TV?
Yeah, I caught it every now and then.
Because I kind of, sorry for interrupting, but I felt kind of like Simpsons were like that. Kind of, oh my gosh, they have an animated show when the adults are watching it, that kind of thing.
Oh right, yeah. When you're growing up, it's sort of like when you're first, now elementary school, it's not something you can all watch, until you're a bit older.
Yeah, I even think like President George H.W. Bush in one of his speeches, he said people need to stop acting like the Simpsons and start acting more like the Waltons about family values and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I guess on this episode we're first going to discuss sort of where we come from as fans of Simpsons, and get to know us, and then kind of talk about an episode called one of the classics called Flaming Moe. So The Simpsons for me came out, I was born in '88, and The Simpsons came out December of '89. So I've pretty much grown up with The Simpsons, or
right,
that kind of thing. So for me, being probably about 7 or 8, when I've kind of noticed an animated TV show on this is on at night when the parents are home. That's the coolest thing ever. I mean, and this was before I realized that the Flintstones actually did it before this.
Right.
And, The Simpsons, I think, now, I think it's kind of now been a cultural phenomenon,
right.
And, but I just kind of wanted to see, kind of go back to yesteryear and just kind of remember what was the first Simpsons episode plot-wise you remember watching, or
oh gosh, plot I probably can't tell, just because Simpsons. So I'm a bit younger than you, so Simpsons have been out since before I was born.
Right,
they're still going. So it's
you
kind of remember the first. It's
first,
Simpsons.
Well, I remember the episode there's the episode where the Itchy and Scratchy, the movie, where Bart wants to go to see the Itchy Scratchy movie, but Homer says you can't go to, he kind of puts his foot down and says you can't go to this movie because he's doing terrible in school, and so in the episode, Marge and Homer have to go to their parent-teacher conference, and Marge says to Homer, or Mrs. Krabappel says to Homer that your son could be the if he doesn't straighten out now, he's gonna turn out to be a convict. He could, your son could make it to be Supreme Court Justice of the United States. And so in one of and that was one of the first episodes I saw. Okay. And and if you, for this podcast purpose, if you don't know The Simpsons, I'm just going to give you kind of a real quick thing. It's an animated show. They're yellow. It centers around a family. Homer, the dad, Marge, the mom, Lisa, the younger sister, Maggie, the baby, and Bart, the 10-year-old.
Right. And
kind of their adventures. And, I think originally Matt Groening basically made it up out of his family. Okay. I think his dad's name's Homer. His mom's name was Marge. And Bart, they were going to change it. It was going to be Matt. but then it was going to be. Then I think they kind of decided to call it Brat, and then Brat turned into Bart.
Ah, okay.
So there's something I was watching something about like kind of how he kind of came up with that.
Okay.
But but I think the show sort of, I mean, there's I like the reason why I won't do this podcast is I like talking about this stuff. So I mean, we're not going to go into so much detail, but just sort of kind of that I just want to let people know that's how the Simpsons kind of came out to be. What and now it became kind of a cultural phenomenon, and it's kind of at the time, if you look at it, it was very oh my gosh, I can't believe they would, it was very shocking. Now it's tame to this, to, I mean, it's now become kind of culturally iconic, not iconic, but culturally sort of in there. I mean, Disney Plus has all like 30.
Is it 30? Is it 33 or 34?
33 seasons. I think they're on the 33rd season right now. And so, but, so I kind of think, I mean, like, and they've predicted, there's this whole, like, thing around that they've predicted stuff, like Trump's presidential thing.
Oh, yeah, because they have to just have so many episodes, and each episode sort of has sort of something
they've kind of said, they've kind of like just thrown it out, and they've thrown it out, and they've said, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, yes, the Simpsons, predicted Trump would be president, but, that kind of stuff where I feel like the Simpsons have been sort of, kind of that cultural icon, and what was your first, do you remember your first episode that you saw?
I can't
or like
remember.
your first, like, or the episode, let me rephrase that. What was the episode that you were like, that sort of hooked you?
Okay, I don't know if I have that, but I do have like one of my favorite scenes that I can think of. Like, just always is where Homer wants to go to clown college.
Okay. And Homie the Clown, I think, is the episode.
Okay, yeah. I just remember there's one scene where he's like he just can't think about anything else except the clown. I think he sees like on a billboard or something, and he's like making a little like circus tent out of his like mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
And he looks up to his family,
yes, I remember that.
And he starts seeing them as clowns.
Yeah.
There's something like this, the animation and expression on his face.
And there's that
kills me.
My favorite, probably, the first episode I used to record them.
Right, I remember you had them on like VHS.
VHS, and they're still in the drawer. But like I think My Sitter was the first episode I recorded, so it has kind of a heart to me. We're from Tennessee. And there's an episode there's an episode of The Simpsons called Bart on the Road, where they go to they're looking at this 1982 pamphlet of things to do.
Has the World's Fair.
And apparently the World's Fair happened, the World's Fair happened in Knoxville. We actually have an area called the World's Fair Park, and they go, it's not just the county fair, not just the city fair, but the world, not just the state fair, but the World's Fair. The World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee. And they end up going to Knoxville, Tennessee, and go to the Sun Sphere, and they break and they find out that they were like 15 years too late or something.
It's full of wigs.
And it's full of wigs for some reason. So we actually the first real the season 13 is where I really started getting into The Simpsons, like watching them on
pretty regularly.
Pretty regularly. So I went all the way up to about season 18, and then I started not watching them.
Right. There's just so much to watch now.
There is, and it's great for but there's so much content out there that you get a little bit overwhelmed, and I think that's the thing. But so we kind of just decided, let's just watch a random Simpsons episode. So we picked episode
10 of season 3.
Season 3, called The Flaming Moe, which is a classic, and it's got an 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb.
Okay.
And so this episode, Moe's Tavern, and Moe, if I know people who probably haven't watched the show, Moe Sislak, who is the bartender at Moe's Tavern. And when we're going to kind of give you, so one of the running gags on The Simpsons is the prank phone call Bart does.
Right. Where
Bart will call Moe and say, is Oliver there? Last name Closeoff. And then he says, is Oliver Closeoff here? Or Al, last name Kaholic. And he says, hey, is Al Kaholic here? Alcoholic? Is there any alcoholics here? So like the joke. And that's the thing about The Simpsons is their jokes really work.
Right.
They're puns, but they work in a good way. But so this is season 3, and we're gonna go into somewhat detail of this episode. So first off, let's just kind of talk about what is this one of your favorite episodes? Like, does it feel like a classic looking back at it now?
I don't know. I'd say it was a good episode. I really enjoyed. I guess looking back at stuff, this is like I hadn't watched an episode from one of the older seasons in a while.
And you can really tell a difference.
Yeah, like the difference in the animation style from what they used, like the more present. I could tell, like I like how some of the movements and gestures were like, very somewhat exaggerated and like in a good way. I felt like a lot more cartoony.
And it's very cartoony. It's very it's very animated, and like it's drawn pretty. It's still like it's classic. You look back at it now with so much where animation, when you look at Disney films and stuff, where animation has gotten so.
Right, it's precise. This is like a little rough around the edges, and like
and it's
really.
But you kind of enjoy. It's kind of like your old basketball. It's flimsy and stuff, but or not maybe your old basketball, but it's like playing a Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like an NES.
Good graphics.
You don't need good graphics. You're having fun, and that's what it kind of feels like with this. So anyway, so in this episode, Moe is pretty much. His business is kind of failing.
Yeah. And
Homer talks to him and says, let me tell you about, so I was,
ran
out of beer and so he tells him about the story about how he was at home with his sisters-in-laws. And he ran out of beer. He went to the refrigerator to get away from him, and he ran out of beer. So he came up with a concoction.
It's basically he was like a little bit from every liquor bottle he had.
Yeah.
And then he actually put in a little bit of cough syrup as well.
And then he put it on fire.
Right. Yeah. So it turned out. So it said it tasted all right, and then as he sat down next to Selma.
Her cigarette
fell in
and flew,
burst into flames.
And he blew on it, and the drink was delicious after that.
After it was on fire.
And and so Moe kind of says, "Can you make it now?" And he's like, "Sure, I can. Do you have any cough syrup?" And he's like, "Sure do." That's right. Let me check the lost and found. And he says, "Here you go," and it's kid cough syrup.
Right.
And he basically pours the cough syrup. He makes it, and he puts the flame in there, and it flames. And he blows on it and cools it off. And Moe takes a drink out of it and goes, "Wow, it's like there's a party in my mouth, and all my taste buds are invited."
Right.
And so so he kind of tries that, and a bartender or a guy comes in looking for kind of like a beer.
Well, I think he was upset because Moe had just bought a love tester machine.
Yeah. Okay.
He was broken. He wanted his nickel back.
So he wanted his nickel back, and he says, "Well, screw your nickel. Here's try this instead.
On the
And he's
house, and he like slides it down.
and he slides it down, and he's like, he blows
"Wow,
on it.
Mister, this is great."
This is great. What is it called? And Homer says it's a flaming Mo. Flaming Mo. I own the restaurant. It's a flaming Mo.
Yeah.
And
so Mo sort of steps in and
steals his idea, which
right.
And what I like about it is how Mo is so schemy, but he doesn't scheme. He just sort of like, says, "Yeah, it was my idea." It's,
Yeah. I don't know if it's happened in this season, but I know they always compare Mo to like a troll. He's sort of like a old, I don't know,
curmudgeon,
like miserable.
Yeah. Well, there's like an episode where where Mo like gets on like one of the stores and like starts to talk about like he's like, "I'm gonna jump," and no one's, and he's like, and Wiggum shows up and says, "Well, okay, we don't have all day, drama queen." I mean, it's like you're like going, oh, but Mo is kind of lovable. I mean,
yeah, he like sort of like rides in the line of being like, I don't know,
he's not annoying. I mean, he's not annoying at all.
Right.
But I think this episode really kind of is a pretty cut and based episode. It's sort of, the plot is pretty simple. Moe's down on his luck. Homer makes a drink. The drink works. Mo takes credit for it, and he becomes a huge success.
Uh-huh.
And then, but Homer's pissed because, he
stole his drink idea and just doesn't get the credit,
right,
or any of like the glory,
right, and I think, but then Mo kind of, but it kind of works where but there's that scene where Mo says, you just lost yourself, when Homer comes in and his place is just like, everybody's showing up, and it's become such a huge thing. I mean, there's an episode.
Aerosmith there.
Aerosmith shows up every night, and it is voiced by Steve Tyler and the members of Aerosmith. And he's like, "Moo, come on up here," and he's like, "Really?"
Oh, you remember? Yeah, they were like, sort of, they didn't want to come up until Mo offered them some pickled eggs.
Pickled eggs, yeah. I mean, but that's the thing about The Simpsons, is that they don't. You look at a lot of like animated shows now where, and I don't know if I haven't watched. Does Bob Burgers does this a lot? Where I know Family Guy does it, where they sort of go, joke.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you should. At some point, I think you should definitely check out Bob's Burger.
I'll check out an episode. I'll check out an episode. I want to watch it with you just because I like to kind of. I think there's something about when you watch a movie with somebody. There's something that I think you kind of can kind of feel their vibe when you watch it. Like even when we're watching Simpsons, there's something classic now looking at, especially watching season, Flaming Mo, so let's get back to the plot. So Aerosmith shows up.
Right.
And he goes like, "Come on, guys, get on!" And then they get Mo to sing with him.
Right.
And Homer is like trying, and then Homer, you feel so bad for Homer in this episode because you've got his Mo's bar was failing. He was helping him out as a good friend with the Flaming Homer / Flaming Mo, and then all of a sudden Homer doesn't or Mo doesn't appreciate it, takes all the credit because he gets greedy and. That kind of thing, where...
Right. And then, so I guess the point where, like, Homer's like, "Well, I'm not even going to, come to your tavern anymore." And he goes off looking for a different place to drink.
And he can't find any place because there's this guy, so he's like going... He goes to this place, he goes to this, like, bar, like, on the dingiest side of town, and he, like, goes in, and there's this guy with an eye patch. And he's like, puts a gun on him. He's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, "I just want a beer. I just want a beer." And he's like, "Okay." And he just gives him a beer.
Then he asks for a clean glass.
He's like, whoa. Well, look who we have here. There. I mean, and that's the thing. I like the comedy. I mean, there's an episode of there, and I think we're gonna kind of talk about our favorite episode. There's not favorite episode, but one of my episodes is where he's walking down the street. I can't remember. It's like season 13 or 14 where he goes like going, well, looky here, look at this city. So these homeless people are like, looky here, look at this city. So it's like, and with his fancy pants, like, these pants were made from Guatemala. And he's like, well, and I don't know, it was one of those things. But I like how this, and like, and then Homer like gets delusional.
Oh yeah, he's like, looks like he's like hasn't slept all night.
And he hasn't slept all night because he's been out, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if he's like just can't sleep thinking about Moe.
Moe, and he's like Moe, and then Bart and Lisa say Moe.
Yeah, like starts out sort of slowly, where like
Moe.
It's like good morning, like where like started like Moe and like the word Moe starts slipping into the conversation, like
every syllable. And I like, but that's what makes this. I think it's a good episode. Do you think? I mean, I don't know if you've watched any new seasons.
Not for a long time.
What was it? Do you remember the last, or what year? Because I stopped watching it consistently, probably after season 18.
Yeah, I'm bad because I remember I've watched a couple of episodes like every now and then I just can't remember. I don't know. It's all sort of blends together a bit for me.
But yeah, I just kind of like, but I like this one. To me, feels class. I kind of look at it now as from seasons 1 through seasons 10 are classic episodes. I think season 11 through season 15 are sort of, or season 1 through season 10 are old school. Or you're classic, and then old school, and then new school, and then the new episode. I don't know how you would kind of do it with that, but I like this episode. I like how, I think the jokes are pretty good.
Yeah.
There was a subplot with Bart.
I guess they show Bart has, I guess one of the scenes with Bart this time, where he shows up to school for like show and tell. And he's like he's
trying to make, he's like saying, everybody, and of course, you've got a 10-year-old bringing liquor to it.
Right, he's going to make them a flaming Homer.
And everybody's like going, you, and then Nelson says, you liar, you haven't, that's a flaming Moe.
Right.
And he's like going, no, it's not, my dad invented it. Yeah, right,
Right. And then Mrs. Krabappel says, you can't have liquor here, you got to bring that to the teacher's lounge. And then she says, you can have what's left after school. So.
Yeah, but that's the humor about The Simpsons, is it's just sort of like, like there's an episode of The Simpsons where, Mrs. Krabappel and Principal Skinner are having a relationship. And so Bart's with them, and they're trying to work out their, thing, and of course they can't have like a relationship in the school because the whole town will talk, and so Marge says to Homer, bro, Homer, Bart's up there, and he's like, he goes to principal or to Chief Wiggum and grabs the megaphone from him. He's like, give me that. He goes, Bart, this is your father. Do you know where the remote is? And he's like, did you check your pocket? And that's the way The Simpsons work.
Yeah.
Where I feel like, they will kind of hit a specific humor.
Right.
Right then and there. But, I like what, Flaming, you do feel, but I do like in the Flaming Moe episode where when Moe is getting very popular.
Yeah.
And Homer's like, he feels like, well, fine, you just lost yourself a customer. And then you said, he says, "You just lost yourself a customer," and he's like, "What is that, Homer?" I said and you feel kind of, and that's when he goes to look for his new dive and can't find it, but then comes back to Moe's Tavern. So I kind of like this episode. I think on a scale from how many donuts, I guess we could rate it, from a scale from 1 to 10, as in 10 being like best episode ever.
I'd give this one an 8.
Eight,
it was
yeah,
good.
It's good. It is good, and I'd probably say, I mean, it's a classic. I think this episode, when people say like Simpsons, this episode probably. Oh yeah, was that the one where Moe makes the drink?
Right.
It kind of comes up, but I like this episode. I think it's I like how it works, but I also kind of like how, but I like how it's resolved as well. Because you've got an A plot. I like the B plot with Bart.
Right. I guess, Steve, what was your favorite joke from this episode?
Probably my favorite joke was the Aerosmith one.
Okay. With the pickled eggs.
Pickled eggs, and I like my favorite line is what I like is where Homer's hanging out at the bar and Mrs. Krabappel's there, and Homer's like, "You're my kid's teacher," but it's not like she's just like, he just feels kind of that awkward kind of thing.
No, yeah.
And then I think the other joke is when he goes to show and tell. You're right, the show and tell
that's a good
scene. One. And when he's like going, "But it's the Flaming Homer," and everyone's like, "No, you ripped that off from Flaming Moe." Right. But I liked it. I give it on an episode. I think I'm gonna rate these episodes a little bit differently than I rate my movies, because I think I'll rate them from a 1 to 5 scale.
Okay. Just
because I feel like 5 is like, this is an episode that makes me laugh. 1 is, it was okay.
Yeah.
And 4, so I give it a 5. What would you, on your scale, what would
I think I'd give it a 4. And I guess my favorite joke would be, there's sort of also somewhat a subplot where, like, the guy's trying to get the secret ingredient for the drink.
Yeah.
And so he steals some, and he has I forget the resident scientist name.
Professor Frink.
Yeah. He's analyzing it, and then the machine spits out the secret ingredient, and it's true love.
True love, yeah.
Who's been messing with
and that's the thing. I mean, there's so many episodes of Simpsons that there's just really we're going to I'd like to cover, but I think Flaming Moe it's a great kind of opener for this episode. And so we'll be back probably. What do you want to do next, Jay?
I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
All righty. All righty. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.